Now, I will take just a few minutes to supplement my earlier thoughts without repeating what had been discussed earlier. I will make only 2 or 3 points. The first point I want to make is to understand that what we are fighting is was very clearly articulated in the language of the Supreme Court from September last year, which I read out, that there is a clear feeling that scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and especially most backward classes should not be allowed in the highest levels of government or policy in this country, because that we need high quality there. So you can see almost in a completely open way, there is a clear strategy. Yes, if you want to have opportunities, you have it at the lower level. We are not going to allow you to come into the higher levels. Now, for that, where do we stand now on reservation and promotion? To share one slide for time, summarizing where we are now as a result of all the law that Madam and you have kindly described. So if we put this in a summary, are you able to see the slide, sir? Are you able to see the slide? Can anyone answer?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Oh, yes, you're able to see the slide? Yes. Okay. So we can see that where we are now is that SC/ST reservation and promotions, which was in the Constitution as an unquestioned program until the Indira Sawhney case first laid out the principle that reservations, it was available to everyone, to all, well, backward classes to the extent they had it in the states, not at the central level, and to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Reservations were available for all appointments. And then we had Mandal Commission introduce reservations in the central government, central institutions. And so they ruled that reservations will only apply to initial appointments and not to promotions. And so the backward classes got thrown out, and they have still not been brought back. And that was one of the points that was made by Dr. Chauhan, that that has not been corrected until now, and it's almost like no one, that's not even an issue. But I think that is an issue, and we need to put that back on the table. But in response to that decision, the reservations in promotions for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes were restored by an amendment to the Constitution that inserted 16(4)(a), and so then there was to be unhindered promotion reservation for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. What undoubtedly the group that I think has to be whose claims cannot be questioned. There is no gray area, there is no doubt. And indeed, until Nagaraj in 2006, no one would dare to question. Even the ruling classes would not dare to question SC/ST reservations at all. And so therefore, after Indira Sawhney, there was a constitutional amendment to protect SC/ST reservations promotions without any ifs or buts or conditions. And we have seen that now there are 5 impediments that have been put into the SC/ST reservations and promotions in the last 15 years, starting from Nagaraj, and then we've heard in detail the various judgments in between. But where we are now at the end of the day is that we have SC/ST reservation promotions subject to the 50% ceiling imposed by under 16 and imposed by Indira Sawhney. The very confused position, but ultimately the decision in Pavitra 2 did not interfere with, nor the decision in Jarnail Singh, neither of them interfered with, and they basically Pavitra 2 found a way to avoid speaking on it, with great strain. But the Jarnail Singh judgment was more clear and said that they uphold the Nagaraj extension of the exclusion of creamy layer to scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. So that leaves a very, very important issue, a very, very important issue. And one of these judgments said actually that the removal of creamy layer, and it's a very tragically ironical comment. It says the removal of creamy layer will make the backward classes truly backward, truly backward. It is like tomorrow, if somebody removes all the educated Indians and says, okay, this will make India truly backward. India is not backward, its people are not backward. But you see their intention from that they want to remove the creamy layer so that there is no capacity, they believe, they are wrong, but they believe that there is no capacity to resist. So effectively today, as we stand now, SC/ST reservations and promotions will have to, arguably will not have creamy layer. Third, while there is no need to produce data on backwardness, there is now a need to provide data for inadequate representation and to prove that there is no impact on administrative efficiency. I have no clue how this kind of data on no impact on administrative efficiency would be even obtained. And inadequate representation without a benchmark, as was discussed. Our benchmark actually should have been a population share. And that has been left to the states. It has been left vague and no benchmark has been put in. So the word adequate representation, which in the constitutional context was very clear, no one had any doubt that it meant in proportion to the share of population, starting from the intervention of Mr. Nagappa that I read out to you. It was very clear that the adequacy of representation in all respects should be with reference to population share, but confusion has been created. And also we strongly oppose this. It is wrong, it is not constitutionally correct, but there is a mischievous attempt to float the idea that including argued before and reflected in some judgments, that the reservation is not a fundamental right, it is a discretionary. And as Mr. Chauhan pointed out, there have been two very strong rejections of this in the dissent by Justice Subba Rao. He referred to that in the 1963 judgment, Devadasan. I will read out just the few lines to you. It's very important to reject this argument that the Justice Subba Rao, later Chief Justice of India, says the expression "nothing in this article" is a legislative device to express its intention, the legislature's intention, in a most emphatic way. In a most emphatic way, that the power conferred thereunder is not limited in any way by the main provision. So it is a most emphatic way that for the legislature to express that the power conferred to have reservations is not limited in any way by the main provision, but falls outside the main provision. It has not really carved out an exception, but has preserved a power untrammeled by other provisions of the article. So as far back in 1963, Justice Subba Rao said 16.4 is not an exception of 16.1, but it has preserved a power untrammeled by other provisions of the article. So from 1963, the Supreme Court's own former Chief Justice has said that 16.4 reservation is not discretionary. It is a fundamental right, which Dr. Ambedkar himself had said in the Constituent Assembly. Second, Justice K.K. Matthew in N.M. Thomas, one of the most respected judges of the Supreme Court, said, and I quote, Article 16.4 is not an exception to Article 16.1. It is only an emphatic way, repeating Justice Subba Rao's words, it is only an emphatic way of putting the extent to which equality of opportunity could be carried, namely even up to the point of making reservations. So both very strong statements from the Supreme Court saying that is saying that the reservation is indeed a fundamental right, and it is not a discretionary or an enabling clause. Like every other clause, my right to freedom is triggered only when my freedom is attacked. My right to reservation is triggered only when there is discrimination or no adequate representation. So, like, it's a fundamental right that gets automatically triggered when my right to equality of opportunity in matters of public employment is violated. So this is these are the, and then EWS is eating away. EWS is reservations entirely, exclusively and wholly for Savarnas. EWS exclusively and wholly for Savarnas. Reservation not for economically weaker sections, but for financially weaker individuals amongst the economically strongest sections. That is also eating away at our at the SC/ST reservations in promotions. Now, if you look at the SEBC position, the same tax on reservations continues, plus three more. One is there is no reservation in promotion for SEBC. They have to produce data for backwardness. And also there is a lot of infiltration from well-off Shudra, but Shudras are also Savarnas, but and Shudras who did not suffer from untouchability, but the backward classes who have suffered from untouchability, who are Avarnas, who are the true beneficiaries of the scheme of reservations, are being edged out by the infiltration into the OBC category. Okay, now I will in the last part I will give another overview of what I see as the issues we should focus on. Now, I think there are 4 issues that we should think about where reservations are being attacked. One is conceptual. These reservations are being presented to us as we said earlier, as a program of upliftment to uplift backward classes, socially and educationally backward, inferior people, to a higher level, to come up to the same level as the upper castes and the forward castes. I think all this terminology is highly conditioned, deliberately, mischievously, whereas although the Constitution uses the word reservation, not anticipating how it would be abused in this manner, actually what we are talking about is not reservation, but restoration. Restoration of the opportunities that was wrongfully stolen from us, wrongfully taken away through the caste system, through Chaturvarnya, through denying education, denying access to public resources, through untouchability, through unseeability, through the most brutal exclusion that humanity has ever seen. Opportunities that should have been with us have been taken away, and they have to be restored to us. So this is not reservation, it's about restoration. So I think we have to understand for ourselves that the story about a reservation has to be reframed, and that will change the consequences. What are the consequences of the story of upliftment? One is to then open up the space for economically weaker sections of upper caste, because if there are economically weaker sections of Avarnas that are, or the backward classes and SC/ST that are getting reservation, why not the economically weaker section of the upper caste? So they're able to open the door and transfer to the public responsibility the need to look after members of their own class who are financial failures. They had every social opportunity to be wealthy. They could go to school, they could get jobs, they could educate themselves. They had dignity, they had respect, they could enter restaurants, they could travel in buses, they could travel in trains. But they became financial failures. And now they're getting reservation. Well, why not help the financial failures from SEBC and SC/ST also? Why only favor the financial failures of the upper caste? So because we are framing it as an economic upliftment program, they've not only been able to say that this is a handout, it cannot last forever, it has to stop and weed out the creamy layer. they are also able to demand data of backwardness. First, they call us backwardness and then ask us for proof. Give us proof. We didn't say we're backward. Mr. Nagappa said, give us our claim. Give us what is ours. He didn't say we are backward. He said, let us be backward, but give us our claim. Now, the backward label is put on people and said, okay, you're backward. Now give us proof you're backward. Well, if we are not backward, why are we called backward? And then ask for proof of backwardness. So we have to change the first, very quickly, the first of four conversations we have to change is that this is not a program of affirmative action. It's not a program of reservation. It's a program of restoration of opportunities that belong to these classes, belong to the 85% of the country. Second, the program in the Constitution, the demand in the Constitution, the demand of Nagappa is for group equality. That there are groups. So the Constitution also says in Article 39 about equality of groups. You will all remember that the state shall in particular, Article 38(2), the state shall in particular strive to minimize inequalities in income and endeavor to eliminate inequalities in status, facilities, and opportunities, not only amongst individuals, but also amongst groups of people residing in different areas or engaged in different vocations. This is a program, the reservation is a program to bring about equality between groups. So how is this being countered? It is being countered by the jurisprudence that treats this entire debate as an issue of individual equality under Article 14. Article 14 has not been allowed to develop a jurisprudence on the equality on social equality. And again, it's because of the nature of the judges and the bar, the bench and the bar, that has not happened. So they're using individual equality to say that, look, individuals who are better off have to be removed, and you can't have, and you're also saying, yes, because it's about uplifting individuals, you can't discriminate against other individuals or don't get reservation. Therefore, we must have a 50% ceiling on reservation, because this is all a competition between individuals, some who are getting a benefit and some who are not. Whereas, in fact, this is a program to implement Article 38 to achieve equality between groups. So this is a second issue where we have to assert that our focus is on achieving equality amongst groups, amongst classes of people, as society defines us and as we are treated in this society. And that will also mean that we cannot recognize the creamy layer. We cannot accept the creamy layer exclusion, because creamy layer is about individuals in the group, and removing them from the group is actually intended to weaken that group. Third, the program of due share that Mr. Nagappa and Mr. Muniswamy Pillai spoke about on August 27, 1947, on due share and adequate representation, which has been reflected in 16.4. The principle in 16.4 and in the provisions on representation, reservation of SC/ST in parliament and legislative assemblies is adequate representation. The principle in education is advancement, that is more focused on individuals, but the others are group representation. So due share and adequate representation has been countered by a jurisprudence of efficiency and merit. And we will have another webinar on the issue of efficiency and merit, and therefore therefore I'm not going to go into it in any detail here, but suffice it, and on the concept of caste, I'll come to that very briefly at the end. But let me simply say here that actually we are dealing with two concepts of merit, one and efficiency. One is the Brahminical idea of merit, which is actually a superstitious religious idea of merit. Merit derived from an unverifiable last birth for unverifiable actions. The definition of merit is recognition of some good deed, the value created by some good deed. That is the definition of merit. which is also recognized in the Pavitra to judgment. So the Brahminical idea of merit is merit can be only derived from a last birth that is not verifiable, from deeds that nobody can verify, to be enjoyed in this birth, and then perhaps what I do in this birth is of no meaning, and we'll see what happens in the next birth. But the 85% of the country is told that you're going to suffer because of what you have done, the demerits you have acquired and the bad deeds you have done in your unverifiable last birth, in your unverifiable bad deeds in this birth. And if you obey us and obey the social order, then in your next birth, you will get a promotion. You will have reservation in promotion in the next birth, not in this birth. And so this kind of idea of merit is completely a false idea. It's a lie. It's a fake idea. It's a superstition. And we have to reject it. What the Constitution means, the Constitution uses the word merit only twice, and only once in a nearly relevant way. But actually, in this context, the Constitution doesn't use the word merit. It uses the word efficiency. And the important thing is to understand that here, the Constitution is talking about the efficiency of the institution, not efficiency of the person. So constitutional idea of merit and efficiency is a scientific idea of merit and efficiency. It is a scientific idea that that is verifiable. What deeds did you do? What value did you create? What should we recognize? And how should we ensure that that is rewarded? The backward classes and the SC/ST are the people who built up this country stone by stone, brick by brick, with their blood, sweat, and tears. If that is not in this life, in a verifiable way, in this world, and if that is not worth recognizing as merit, then I don't know what is. And if including recognition of that merit into adding value to the institutions of this society is not valued, I don't know what can be valued. And if you look at Article 38.1, you will also see that reservation is actually a part of Article 38.1's objective of creating JUST, just institutions. Article 38.1 says, the state shall strive to promote the welfare of the people by securing and protecting as effectively as it may a social order in which justice, social, economic, and political shall inform all institutions of national life. This is the mandate of the entire state, to improve the quality of institutions. In other words, to improve institutional quality, IQ, and make them just. How? By making them just, so that justice, social, economic, and political shall inform all institutions of national life. Reservations is a means to implement 38.1, not to bring, not just 14, but 38.1, to improve the quality of institutions in our country and make them just by recognizing the merit of those who have built this country brick by brick, stone by stone, with their blood, tears, and sweat. And so, therefore, we have to change this whole dialogue, and we have to understand that without the backward classes and the SC and ST, there can be no merit and no efficiency. Our focus is not on uplifting individuals. Our focus is on building institutions. And if you stop promotions of SC/ST into reservations, you are attacking the quality of institutions. You're attacking Article 38.1, because Article 38.1 says that all institutions must be just. If, like the Supreme Court envisages, you have institutions at the top that do not have scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, they will not be just institutions. They will be unjust institutions. And therefore, by blocking reservations and in promotions, let us understand that the Supreme Court is going against the principles of the Constitution. And I hope, like in ADM Jabalpur, someday they will recognize it and correct themselves. Lastly, the argument that is made is that we don't want reservations because It will divide our society permanently. It will fragment our society. This is another lie. It is the truth is that reservations are meant to transform society. And how are they meant to transform society? And again, we'll have another more detailed webinar on this. But actually, let us understand what caste is. Caste has been wrongly and mischievously defined to us simply as a system of division of labor, forcing occupation. And therefore, because now today, a K.G. Balakrishnan, who by the way was reversed, he said in Ashoka Thakur very clearly that the principle that very correctly that creamy layer is only a principle of identifying backward classes. It is not a principle of equality. And he has been reversed by Justice Nariman in Jarnail Singh explicitly that he is wrong. Actually, Justice Balakrishnan is right. Creamy layer is only a means of identifying individuals among backward classes for excluding them to weaken the backward classes. It is not a principle of equality at all. But coming back to our topic, let us understand that caste is not about our occupation, because then we can say there are no restrictions on a K.G. Balakrishnan becoming the Chief Justice of India. Caste is all over. Why are you talking about something that has no longer any relevance? But actually, that is not caste. Caste actually is a virus that corrupts our stories about ourselves. Every group, every individual, every community in the world has a story about ourselves. So Savarkar has a story that he and his ancestors came from the North Pole, carrying their holy books. Fine, that's his story. But what they do is they come here and they don't just tell their story. They come into our stories and corrupt our stories and degrade them and destroy them and make them shameful in a way that we ourselves don't have. We have left with nothing but a negative story that then affects our credibility. So I know a very young and brilliant colleague who comes from a family background where, let's say, his, I won't name the vocation, his family's vocation was to do X. But he was labeled as member of a community that does Y. And Y is something against which a lot of negativity was built up in society. As a result of this, today, that young man is not able to do X in the society because he is considered as doing only Y, and his whole community, his personality, his family is all identified with Y. A negative story has been built. So every community, they have come, caste is a virus that corrupts our stories about ourselves like a computer program. It corrupts the stories about ourselves, and it creates negative stories for some, but it creates very positive stories for others. Very positive stories. And also it creates conflicting stories so that we start to conflict with each other. These are stories where everyone has some degree of superiority and some degree of inferiority. So everyone feels a little bit superior to somebody else, and most of us are a lot inferior to others. A few people feel very superior without being seen as simply a person who does the occupation that is in that stereotype and nothing else. And I am not capable of seen as capable of doing anything else except that. And it ignores the truth, because the truth is that I and my family have nothing to do with that stereotype, but we are trapped by that stereotype. And therefore, the last point I want to make is that we believe that through reservation, we will change these stories. We will change these stories about caste. We will take back our control over our own stories. I want to let Savarkar say his story, but he should not say my story. I should have the right to say my story. As an individual, as a member of my family, he should have that right. I should also have that right. He can't take away that right. So we must take back our right to tell our own story. We must tell it in a way that is truthful. And all those truthful stories are proud stories of struggle and contribution to the building of this country. And through reservation, we are making sure that people with all kinds of stories come into public institutions, correct those public institutions, so that those public institutions do not any longer become vehicles and instruments for perpetuating these wrong stories. that are degrading people and are constricting the opportunities of people and making people conflict with each other. Therefore, once reservation works, we come into these institutions and we come with our own stories and we destroy these false stories, we will build a new unity, bottom-up unity in this country, where this country will be a country where everyone has a good narrative, a good story about themselves. And the relevance of this the Varna caste system, which is simply a virus to create negative stories of others, will be destroyed. So let me, these are the 4 areas where I think we need a much more discussion, but we need to change the narrative at a social discourse level. We need to develop a new jurisprudence challenging these false ideas of efficiency and merit that we are confronting now, and misrepresentation of ideas of equality, misrepresentation of ideas of merit, and we must help to develop, as I indicated, a correct jurisprudence that will protect promotions for SCST and will also restore protection, reservation in promotion for backward classes, and will also ensure that all this program of restoring the opportunities that were lost to us will be successful, as envisaged by Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar and all the others who built this constitution.